This year's presidential election covers many critical topics from diversity and inclusion to mental health and sexual assault prevention to tuition increase. The in-studio debate will be divided into 3 segments separated by 2 commercial breaks. The first segment will cover our candidates' opening statements as well as questions regarding diversity and inclusion. After our first commercial break, the candidates will discuss mental health and sexual assault prevention on campus. And during the third segment, the candidates will address increasing tuition rates.
If you would like to see the candidates in person, visit the Tavern tonight at 9 p.m. for the town hall debate, where students will ask questions to the candidates themselves. Let's meet our 3 candidates: Devontae Torriente, Matt Mullin, and Will Mascaro. The candidates will now present their opening statements.
Hi, I'm Devontae Torriente. I'm running to be your student government president. For me, this campaign process is about 3 main things: collaboration, accessibility, and potential. When I started this process, I knew that I wanted to make sure that I was including all voices in whatever I was doing. Over the past few weeks, I've met with many leaders on campus and many student organizations, and in doing so, I've received their input to make sure that their voices were heard. In terms of accessibility, we oftentimes throw around the word transparency. It's a buzzword these days, but we need to make sure that students have the ability to utilize the resources on campus. And with potential, I didn't always want to stay at AU. But what made me stay was that I realized that we have the potential to actually make a difference in people's lives. I saw that potential, I believed in that potential, and I want to capitalize on that potential. Together, I believe that we can maximize on the potential of the AU community. These are our voices, and they deserve to be heard.
We will now move on to our next candidate's opening statement.
All right, well, first and foremost, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone, and everybody watching at home. I would like to first start off by thanking ATV for hosting this event and having us here tonight. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Mullin, and I am running for to be your student government president. When I first declared my intention to run, I asked myself, what do I want the student body to know about me? Well, I'm a student who's looking to make changes in the student government and how it's run. I'm a student who has never missed a home basketball game while I've been on campus and has led the charge with school spirit in the Blue Crew. I'm a student who pulls weeds and trims hedges as a member of the AU grounds crew, but most importantly, I am a student who is dedicated to AU's mission of building an inclusive campus and enhancing the student experience. We have come very far as a university, but we can still do more. Many current student government leaders claim to build an inclusive campus while being part of the most exclusive club on campus. This needs to change. For some, student government is about individual promotion. That's not me. I'm not about adding this to my resume. I'm about adding to the quality of student life. I'm not about status. I'm about changing the status quo. I'm not about joining organizations for petty political gain. My campaign does not promise any complicated legislation that looks good on paper while does not deliver any real promises or any real solution to problems. Let's work together to solve the issues that we have on campus. Let's work together to protect the nest. Thank you, everybody.
We will now hear our third candidate's opening statement.
This year, tuition increased by over $2,000. Students don't have access to the mental health care that they deserve. And once again, our university may be under investigation under Title IX for failing to handle the report of a sexual assault. That is the status quo at American University. And my name is Will Mascaro, and I'm running to be your student government president because I believe we can do better than the status quo, because I believe we must do better than the status quo. I have the experience needed, the most comprehensive platform, and a vision for an AU that every single one of us can believe in. You know, over my time at this school, I've found one thing fascinating. Every time we have created change, it's been students at the forefront. Students are told no. Hundreds of doors are shut in our face. And every time we lead the way for a better American university. I want to do that with all of you. I want to fight for a better AU with all of you. I want to change this school for the better together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidates. We will now begin our first set of general questions to include diversity and inclusion. Throughout the past 2 semesters, AU student government has proposed new measures to foster better relations between races. For example, President Cohen announced in his long-term plan for diversity and inclusion that the new general education program will, I quote, introduce diversity and inclusion in a mandatory course for all first-year and transfer students. Mr. Devontae, do you feel like this plan will remedy the difficulties that AU students face? If so, how do you plan on promoting the plan? And if not, how do you plan to promote better relations between races?
Well, I believe that President Kerwin's plan is definitely a step in the right direction. You mentioned the general education proposal that's being put forth. I was actually called on by the administration to sit on the curriculum committee where we're currently formulating how those conversations are going to go down and how students are going to be discussing race and diversity and inclusion. And so I definitely think that President Kerwin's plan is what we need, but it's not something that he thought of on his own. We noticed over the past year and a half that student advocacy and student pressure is what brought this to the forefront of our campus. We've had efforts led by students who are in the darkening to make sure that the administration is accurately and adequately addressing these issues. So I believe that President Kerwin is definitely taking up the right issue right now, but we still have a lot more that needs to be done on the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Torriente. Mr. Mullin, same question.
Sure, thank you for the question, Sarah. It's a very important question. As far as diversity and inclusion on campus, my platform is exclusively about that. It's about bringing in everyone on campus, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or economic background. It's about bringing everyone in. We're all Eagles. We're all part of the school. As far as President Kerwin's plan, I believe it can't only start with the administration. As president, I will promote diversity through the school by looking at the organizations on campus and looking at the needs of organizations on campus, and then bringing those who are well informed on these issues, bringing them to the administration. It has to come from the students, not only from the administration. My platform outlines extensive plans for this for the Greek community. Using the Intercultural Greek Collective as a head of one of the Greek organization councils. We need to have more connections with the intercultural fraternities on campus and make them have better outreach to students. And I think that outreach to students and starting at the student body is where we can be most effective.
Thank you, Mr. Mullin. Mr. Mascaro, same question.
Thank you. I think President Kerwin's decision is a start. I agree with Devontae. But like Devontae said, it is absolutely anything but the full solution that we need. I'll be the first to admit that as a white man, I have not experienced racism, and I never will experience racism. And so I am not the person that should be leading the charge on this issue. I have to lead from behind. Anyone in my position would. But what that means in a student government president is that I need to find people who are in these communities, who are people of color, who have been fighting for this for a much longer time than President Kerwin or any of the administration have, and put them into positions of leadership so that they can lead from the front. Now, that means a number of things. That means making sure that, we have the training for every single student at American University. But it also means that we have an increase in faculty of color. It also means that we create a community that is accepting, respectful, and empowering of all students, including students of color. That's something we don't have right now at American University. I'm confident that with the right team, we're going to be able to do that, but it's going to take a lot of voices, and most importantly, it's going to take making sure that voices that have traditionally been silenced on this campus are no longer silenced.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. We have one more general question in this area. How have you fought for diversity and inclusion on campus in the past? Do you have experience working with groups such as the Black Student Association, AU Darkening, or similar organizations? Mr. Torriente, we'll start with you.
So I'm a student of color here on campus, and since I've come to AU, I realized that AU isn't very welcoming from the beginning for us students of color, and so I've joined organizations to find that community. I lead the education committee within the Darkening. I was a member of the Black Student Alliance, and I also am involved in the communities of color here on campus. And I think it's important to remember that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we have to move beyond the traditional conversation. A lot of the time that conversation revolves around just bringing more students of color on campus. But really, what good does that do if we're not creating a welcoming space for them? And so we have to move into a place of acceptance. And so as student government president, I'll be advocating for things such as creating a new African American and African diaspora studies program. We currently only have the minor, which I'm currently studying as well. But we need to expand this program to show students who are interested in this area of study that it's not a peripheral area of study. It needs to be a major one. I'm also as student government president, I will also be advocating for working with AUCC, the club council, to ensure that all organizations on campus, or at least their e-boards, will be going through diversity and inclusion training. I'm also going to be advocating for an increased number of faculty of color on campus. I realize that one of the many problems that I've had is not seeing myself represented on this campus. And I know that problem is common for other students of color as well. So it's about making sure that we have students of color feel welcome from the very beginning and making sure we're taking the initiative, because oftentimes the administration is very reactive in what they do. And us students of color can't wait for their reaction. We need them to take the initiative and be proactive from day one.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mullin, same question.
Sure thing. Thank you, Kelly. As far as diversity on campus and inclusion, for leadership roles, I've not been a part of any unique diversity organizations on campus. Again, kind of reiterating what Will brought up. I'm a white man. I've never experienced racism. I'm not in an authoritative position to make a policy about this. I'm not. My responsibility as student government president is to bring the people in, the leaders of those communities and those organizations like the Darkening, bring those people to the table and push the policies that they want to the administration with them, fight side by side with them. And again, I'm pushing this again with the Greek community. That is a big opportunity for us to be more inclusive with the IGC, making more resources available to them, not only to outreach with the administration, but giving the intercultural Greek collective more voice to the student body. We're the student government. We can outreach to more people than the administration, and by bringing in, by fostering those connections, we can make this a more inclusive campus for everyone. Increasing school spirit, events on campus, getting everyone together as soon as we can. When I'm the president and I'm here over the summer at orientations, we're going to be bringing everyone together and bringing more on-campus events at All-American Weekend, Welcome Week. We're going to be fostering a community since day one. Those are some of the ways I'm going to make this campus more diverse and inclusive.
Mr. Mullin, thank you. And finally, Mr. Mascaro, same question to you.
Thank you. No, this issue is not new to me. And the time that I've spent in student government, I have worked hard to make sure that diversity within student government across campus was a priority. When I was the Speaker of the Senate, I had the opportunity to appoint members of the student government. 53% of my appointees were students of color. That is not an accident. That was very deliberate. And it was deliberate because the Senate I inherited was very male and very white. And that needed to change because, like Devontae said, if you don't see yourself in an organization, then it's not open to you. We don't have the capacity for you to get involved and have influence. And that needed to change, and I worked to change it. What can we do now? Because that's what matters. That's what I'm running on. And as your president, I hope to be someone that furthers this issue. First, I want to see every single policy initiated by the Diversity and Inclusion Working Group under Aaliyah Lambert instituted fully. As we mentioned a few moments ago, President Cohen has implemented some of them. He has not implemented all. That was a mistake. It needs to be corrected, and it will under my term as president. We need, again, more faculty of color, but we need administrators of color also. We need people in positions of power who come from marginalized communities. And lastly, I want to expand the existing and being created right now student government racial sensitivity training that was passed by Kirsten Gillette Pierce It's here now. We have it. It needs to be expanded. It needs to be funded. And it needs to be made available to every student on campus, every group of club leaders. And it needs to be taken by every member of student government. So there are concrete steps that I laid out. And if I have the opportunity of being your president, I'm going to see them through.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. We will now go to our first commercial break.
Here, you guys, someone has to say that when we come back because we missed it due to.
Welcome back. Again, we are sorry for the technical difficulties we have been experiencing and for our delayed start time. We will now transition into our second set of general questions on mental health and sexual assault prevention.
Our first question is for Mr. Torriente. How do you feel about the mental health environment on campus? Do you feel mental health awareness needs to be expanded?
I definitely do believe that mental health awareness needs to be expanded. Half the battle with mental health advocacy is that there's such a huge stigma around it. And so we need to be prepared to have those tough conversations about, how it's okay to not be okay sometimes, how it's okay to realize that you need help and that you need assistance. We go to a school where there's a lot of stress within the student body. People are taking 15 credits, interning, working jobs, and involved in 5 different clubs. So it's a matter of making sure that we're really being proactive about having these conversations. So I think that the mental health services on campus they need to be improved, to say the very least. And I think we need to start by having those tough conversations and shifting the culture we have on campus about mental health and mental awareness.
Mr. Mullin, same question.
Thank you, Sarah. Mental health issues on campus is a very important issue to me. It's why I put it at the top of my platform. Next year is a budget year for our school, and as your president, I will be in the boardroom fighting for an increase in budget for the counseling center. I will use that budget increase to not only elevate the programs that we have on campus now, but also bring in new effective programs, such as the peer-to-peer mentorship program that's been effective at schools such as SUNY Albany, Stanford, Cornell, and Drexel. I also want to expand the resources of the counseling center to be open directly to students with mental health issues 24/7. Mental health issues on campus is not a 9 to 5 issue. It's a 24/7 issue. The counseling center needs to have resources available to students at all times. Another issue with mental health issues on campus is substance abuse. This issue is very personal to me because a close friend of mine freshman year actually had to leave school because of substance abuse problems. He had to leave school and go to rehab. That's not where the end of the line should go. Not at this university. We need to increase awareness of specifically drug and alcohol addiction on campus in relation to mental health issues. This needs to be one of the top priorities, and it will be in my administration. I hope we will all work together on these problems to give the counseling center more resources for students on campus.
Thank you, Mr. Mullin. Mr. Mascaro, same question.
Thank you. To be frank, I think every student at this university knows that the situation surrounding mental health services is not satisfactory. That is a fact. So let me just get to the point and tell you how we need to fix it. First, We need a 24/7 crisis hotline made available to every student at this university. Now, we have something like that already, but it is outsourced to somewhere in Virginia, not here on campus. We need a resource here where students can call in and know that the person they're talking to is familiar with the community that they live in. The fact that we don't have this, the fact that we are a school of a comparable size to many other universities that do have this, is very concerning. Whether it's operated by trained professionals or peers, what we know is that if a student is having a crisis at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., it doesn't matter. We need a service for them that is available whenever they need it. So that's number one. Number two, Matt's right, we do need more funding, and I'm prepared, and I think the most experienced person here to be in the boardroom fighting for you. And the reason why is because I've been doing it for years. I've been working with administrators, with Tracy Calandrio, just down the hall in the counseling center, duking this out for months. You know, I'm not new to this. I know that it's going to be a battle. I know that university board of trustees members are going to tell us that they know how to spend student money better than we do. That's simply not the case. And I'm going to fight every opportunity I have in that boardroom to make it very clear that we need more funding. And we need more funding for a number of reasons. That's not just a buzzword or a campaign phrase, it's meaningful. We need more funding because the wait times to get into that office are unacceptable. We need more funding because we have to hire a full-time psychiatrist rather than the part-time or the grad students that we have right now. There's a real need for more funding. The counseling center knows it, and I'm going to work to get it. And lastly, and it's pretty simple, we just need more information. Devontae is right. Stigma is an issue. If you provide students with information, if you provide students helping people with a mental health crisis with information, that's going to reduce stigma. That's why I've been working since last semester to create the Your Care initiative that's going to put a flyer in every single bathroom stall detailing all the mental health services that we have on campus. The flyer's done, it's close to completion. We just need to work with housing and dining to get it up in every single bathroom stall. That's the hard work that comes with advocacy, having an idea and seeing it through. I've been doing that for a while, and I'm confident I can continue to do it on mental health.
Can I actually respond on that?
Sure.
I think when it comes to mental health services, we need to make sure that we're doing more than just, proposing ideas. We need to make sure that we're following through on those proposals. Senator Mascaro mentioned the Your Care initiative, but we have yet to see that come to fruition. And so I think the counseling center does in fact need more resources. We don't actually know how much they make or how much they're allotted because their budget is confidential. But in the meantime, students can't afford to wait. And so that's why as student government president, I plan on advocating to reinstate peer-to-peer services on campus. We have peer institutions such as George Washington University that use these same similar services. We had a class a couple of years ago in which we would teach students how to deal with basic mental health needs. And in reinstating that class, we're going to alleviate the stress and the pressure on the counseling center, and we're going to make sure that students have the services they need until we can properly fund the counseling center.
Because I was mentioned, do you mind if I respond?
Absolutely.
I'll be quick. Thank you. Devontae is right. It's not finished yet. But also, this time last year, Empower AU, the program that requires every single incoming student to get trained in sexual assault prevention education, also hadn't come to fruition. Did that mean it didn't exist? Absolutely not. The hard work was happening behind the scenes. I don't care about doing something fast. I want it done right. That's what's happening right now. We're talking to the different groups that this matters about that need to be involved, and we're doing it right. And when it happens, it's going to happen right. And that's what I'm going to be proud of.
Since everyone responded, can I also chime in?
We actually have to move on, but you will have an opportunity to answer our next general question. You will all have the opportunity to answer this question. So during recent student government debates, other presidential candidates have expressed a desire to increase the budget and the size of the counseling center. But how would you actually change the budget to guarantee that the counseling center receives the funding that it needs to expand? Mr. Mascaro, let's start with you.
Thank you. That's a great question. So it hasn't been until 2 years ago, when there was a president who was going to run for office that would enter office on a budget year. And I know Sophia Worth tried incredibly hard to increase the amount of funding that went to the counseling center. And the Board of Trustees shut her down, and that's not fair. Luckily, I am in a unique position of experience in this election. I am the only person in this race who has had the opportunity to work with administrators on this issue, to push policies on this issue, and to know what is going to be expected of me when I'm in that boardroom. I have that experience. So when we go into the boardroom, when we're making the case to administrators, I believe that I am the most comfortable because I've been put through the ringer before. I've been in the trenches before. I've been expected to be prepared, be logical, and make the case for why they should spend more money in somewhere where they might not to. I have the experience, and that makes me uniquely qualified to deliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. Mr. Mullin, would you like to respond to the same question?
I
please?
absolutely would, Kelly, and it's the plain truth is I have just as much experience on this stage in the boardroom as anyone up here. This problem has not been solved through passing recommendations to the administration through the undergraduate senate, and it never will be. And frankly, I don't care about the problems of the last budget year. I'm focused on this one. I think that we can make changes in this upcoming budget year that nobody has before, and that doesn't come from experience and passing recommendations and advocating in the student senate. I think that it's done. We don't need more advocacy. We need more action in the boardroom, and I'm going to get it done.
But Mr. Mullin, you failed to answer the question. How are you going to get it through?
Well, I'm going to actually get things done in the boardroom by facilitating and bringing people in to the conversation who have more experience from the offices around campus, from the counseling center, how they specifically think where more funding could come from, and how much funding exactly they need. And I'll bring those recommendations from offices around campus to the boardroom to present to the members of the board and effectively get the funding for the counseling center that they need and deserve.
Thank you. And Mr. Torriente, would you like to answer the same question, please?
Yes, absolutely. So I think that Mr. Mascaro is remiss in the sense that he's not the only one with experience with administrators. I think that we've seen that when I have that seat at the table with administrators, things actually do get done. For example, working with the general education program, we're now ready to launch that for the upcoming semester. And so when I have that seat with administrators, with the board of trustees, I'm going to make it abundantly clear that we need to properly fund the counseling center. Students cannot afford to not have the services they deserve.
Thank you, Mr. Torriente. We will now go to our second commercial break. We will now transition into our third segment, which includes tuition.
Our first question is a general question for all of you. So the AU student government has discussed making tuition more manageable for students, but tuition rates still increased by 3% during the 2015-2016 academic year. How do you propose to make tuition manageable for students, especially since there are new student activity fees next year? Mr. Mascaro, let's start with you.
Thank you. You know, SG is not the solution to this problem. You're right. Tuition didn't go up last year, but it was going to go up a lot more until the Board of Trustees and President Cohen saw the over 200 students who took to the quad and fought for this issue, and they said that another increase was unaffordable, unsustainable, and unfair. It was students that convinced the board to decrease what was initially going to be a much higher increase. And once again, it's going to be the responsibility of the president not to assume that they know what's best, but to work with students, work with student organizers, and make this issue a priority. So, how do we handle affordability at this university? One, we need to do it we need to tackle tuition head on. That's why I support a tuition freeze. I believe it's practical, I believe it's doable, and I do believe that it is necessary if we're going to keep students at this university here and succeeding. We also need to deal with financial aid so that if a student is able to afford AU, that they can continue to afford it by keeping their package. One, that means we need to warn students ahead of time if their financial aid package is going to be cut so that they can act on that information rather than being surprised that their money is gone. We also need a student who can work with other students through the financial aid process. That's why I support, not a new idea, but an idea that's been talked about for a while, creating a student advocate for financial aid, someone not paid by the university, but trained by the university to handle these issues, walk students through the process, and be an advocate for students. There's a number of things we have to do, but it starts with taking students with us and leading together.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. Mr. Mullin, same question to you.
Sure thing. Thank you for the question. Agreeing with the Education Not Debt program on campus, I do support a tuition freeze, and I will bring that proposition to the board. What we can also do for cutting the cost of education on campus is I think we have great potential to reform the course reserves on campus, because some of my personal expenses or student expenses on campus in general comes from buying books and from the bookstore. If you expand the course reserve so there's more free books available for students to check out and rent in the library, that dramatically cuts the cost that students pay per semester. I think that's a really effective program that we can definitely get done. Also, we can bring more student jobs onto campus by creating avenues directly to other agencies on campus. For example, recently I started working for facilities management. There was no connection through the AU portal to get a job through there. We need to make those connections available, make that available on the portal to see all of the on-campus jobs for students. And if we expand getting more people into jobs, expanding the course reserves to cut the other costs of college, I think that is where one of our biggest battles lies.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Torriente, your turn.
Look, I don't think there's one person sitting at this table who doesn't support a tuition freeze, but I think where we differ is how we're going to go about implementing that tuition freeze. And so I think the main thing to focus on here is working with student groups, such as the Education Not Debt Coalition, to make sure we're amplifying their voices and not co-opting their message. We need to make sure that whatever they're advocating for is abundantly clear to the Board of Trustees. We also need to make sure that we're personalizing our financial aid process. We have counselors that are so detached from the process and from the students that they just do whatever they need to do to get their job done. But we need counselors who are personally invested in the financial stability and financial security of our students. And lastly, I think where Mr. Mascaro and I disagree on this issue is that we don't need students handling the financial aid of other students. I think we have a history at this university of putting the burden on students when the administration should be doing their job. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're having a financial aid process, again, that is personalized and not completely reliant on the students doing what the administration should be doing already.
If there's time, can I respond?
Of course.
Thank you. You're right. The responsibility to advocate for students and, to serve students falls on the university. That's why we pay them. But as the only person running who's a member of Education Not Debt, I've learned something very important, that oftentimes it is much easier to talk about your issues with financial aid, the struggle you're going through, the challenges you face with another student rather than someone paid by the university who's confusing, difficult to talk to, and difficult to trust. I don't want to throw a big amount of responsibility in the hands of a student who can't handle it or risk students feeling uncomfortable going to a student advocate. But again, this isn't a new idea. It works with the Student Advocacy Center, a group of student defense lawyers who provide students with counsel before they go to the conduct process. That works there, and it can work with financial aid by training a student or a group of students to be professionals in this and to give students the comfort and the trust they need to go to someone who they know that they can rely on.
Mr. Mullin, Mr. Torriente, I see that you've both been shaking your heads. Would you both like to respond?
Yes, I would love to respond. I don't believe in the peer-to-peer mentorship program for financial aid because we bring in experts on the campus and we pay them to know the ins and outs of the financial aid system and to know when financial aid is going to change, so you can go to them and get a professional advice from them. So instead of a warning from when your financial aid is going to get cut, you can have meetings with them so you can see yourself and learn the process yourself on how to apply for financial aid. That's why we hire these people, and that's why the administration spends money to bring these people in. That's part of our reason where our tuition goes to in the first place, because to have the resources available to make accurate decisions on how you're going to pay for school.
Mr. Torriente.
I 100% agree. I think we're paying the university to do their job, and we should not be placing that job on the students. The university really needs to step up and make sure the professionals in the financial aid center that work with AU Central are on top of their game. We don't need more students who are disenfranchised by the financial aid services on this campus. We need to make sure that we are personalizing each student's existence and experience with the financial aid center. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than dealing with having your financial aid cut and not knowing who you're speaking to when you're emailing AU Central. So you need to make sure that you have that one-on-one interaction, very personalized experience with AU Central and financial aid services.
One sentence.
Of course.
Just to sum it up, if the way it was working right now worked, we wouldn't be here right now. I'm willing to try something new. I think this program makes sense, and I'm going to push for it if I have the chance to be your president.
Well, to continue with the general questions, our second general question is that year after year, as we've all heard from all three of you, AU students have complained that the financial aid office is inaccessible. Do you have a plan to make the financial aid more accessible to students next year? And Mr. Mullin, would you like to start?
I'm sure. I would love to start, Sarah. I have personal experience with this for calling in many times over, I'm sure all candidates and all students have had experience with this. I was number 87th on the wait list at AU Central. 87. Wow, that's great. The reforms that need to be made with AU Central, it needs to become more efficient. And then the way you do that is by bringing in just more people to help the situation get faster. And not only more people, but in more effective programs, making students have better up-to-date statuses on what their financial aid situation is and what they need to turn in on time. It can't just be something where an update that comes through your My American AU portal. It can't be that. It can't just be through Eagle Service. You have to be sending constant updates and deadlines for when it's supposed to be done. So I think the biggest way we can improve it is by getting more staff involved and by increasing and improving the lanes of communication to the students on campus.
Mr. Torriente, would you like to respond?
Yes. So I think the way that we can improve financial aid services on this campus has to do with, again, make sure we're personalizing the services. When my financial aid was cut over the summer, I was contemplating whether or not I'd be able to afford coming to AU. And in dealing with that process, I realized that every time I sent an email, there was probably someone different on that other end replying to me. And again, the process took several weeks to make sure that it was done the correct way. And if we had that personalized experience, much like we have with the School of Public Affairs academic advisors, we make sure that not only the student is personally invested in their own financial security, but that the financial aid center is invested in the student as well.
Thank you, Mr. Torriente. Mr. Mascaro, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Again, I believe in a warning system that provides students with information ahead of time so that they're empowered with the knowledge they need to act and act quickly if their financial aid is under threat. I agree completely with Devontae. I think we do need a personalized system, and that's going to take diverting more funds to hire quality individuals in that office who's going to stick with the student from day one to the time they graduate. And lastly, and I know that this is a big idea, but I think we should consider, and people have talked about it before, moving AU Central out of this bizarre building that it's in right now, wedged behind Bender, where you have no privacy, where it's sometimes dark, uncomfortable. I've been there too many times. And students don't feel like they're being heard. So let's consider doing something different. You know, it shouldn't be hard, it shouldn't be a struggle just to stay at this university. And that's why I think we need someone who's going to fight to make the office more accessible, but also let students have the information they need to best handle the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. Before we move to the town hall debate, candidates will present their closing statements.
I think that's me. I'll just go. So, in my opinion, this election is not about any of us at this debate here tonight. This election is about all of you, about every single student at this university, about who you want fighting for you in the boardroom, about who you believe is going to do the best job, about who you believe shares your vision for a better American university. I'm confident that I'm that person. The platform we submitted 2 weeks early so that every student had the opportunity to see it was a platform created by students all over this campus. It was a platform that was being changed right up before we released it, receiving new student feedback. I want to be a president for every single student. I want to be a president that will make your issues my issues. And most importantly, I want to be a president that cares for a better university, a university that respects everyone, and a university where every student can be successful. I'm lucky in the sense that AU has been my home away from home, but that's not true for everyone. I want it to be true for everyone, and I think I can do that, but I need your support. Thank you so much, and I hope I've earned your vote. See you at the town hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mascaro. Mr. Mullin, would you like to present your closing statement?
Thank you, Sarah. I think we have great potential and opportunity on this campus to become closer to one another and to have a better student experience altogether. Basically, what it comes down to is this. I'm the person that will bring the student body together by lifting up the organizations on campus already and bringing them in direct communication with the administration. I will bring on more and continue the work that has been done to bring on more exciting events on campus to make this place even better than it is now. Being at college is all about having connections with the people around you, and that's what makes college worthwhile. I want to establish those connections for every freshman that I meet over the summer at orientations and during Welcome Week. Welcoming in new people to this community that we will all create together, this strong community, is what I will focus on most in my campaign. I hope that we can all work together on these issues. I hope to see you all down at the Tavern. And please, let's all work together to protect this place and have a great time for the remainder of the time here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullin. Mr. Torriente, would you like to respond would you like to present your closing statement?
Yes. So I just want to echo my earlier sentiments that my campaign and my SG presidency would be about three main things: collaboration, accessibility, and potential. And Mr. Mascaro was right. This isn't a home for everyone when they first get here, and it should be. Students are paying for services that they deserve. Students are paying for an experience that they're not getting. And student government can serve two main purposes. We can bridge the gap between students and the administration, but we can also foster student life here in our own community. And so it's about making sure that we're all on board. I believe that I have the vision to make sure that AU maximizes its potential, but I can't do it alone. And so I believe that together, we can really make sure that this vision becomes a reality and make AU a home for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torriente, and thank you to all three of you candidates for coming here tonight. That concludes the 2016 Student Government Presidential Debate. Please join us in the Tavern tonight at 9 p.m. for the Town Hall debate, where you will have the chance to ask the candidates your questions. I'm Kelly Connor.
And I'm Sarah Kravetz. Thank you, and we'll see you in the Tavern.
Or not.